I never thought I'd see his name flash across my phone again. Richard Hale. The same man who once laughed at me in front of a crowded office, mocking my paycheck like it was some kind of comedy act. Now his number vibrates against the smooth surface of my glass desk, right here in my corner office, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Manhattan skyline that still takes my breath away some mornings. I take a slow sip of coffee, the steam curling upward, warming my lips. My silk blouse clings just slightly against my skin, reminding me of the countless cheap polyester shirts I used to wear back when I worked for him. Back when my rent swallowed nearly every dollar of my salary. I should ignore the call. Let him stew. But curiosity, and maybe irony, has its grip on me. So I let it ring once more before I answer, my voice steady, even warm. Hello, Richard. There's hesitation on the other end, a crack in the arrogance I remember so vividly. He's the one asking for a meeting now. He needs me. And as I lean back in my leather chair, phone pressed to my ear, a quiet smile tugs at my lips. Because Richard has no idea that the woman he once humiliated, the girl with the laughable paycheck, is now the investor holding the power to decide his future. I was 24 when I first walked into Hale and Company as a junior analyst. Fresh out of college, armed with a degree, ambition, and a pair of discount heels that pinched my feet with every step. I thought I'd finally made it. A job in New York City. A chance to prove myself. But dreams looked different under fluorescent lights. Richard Hale, my boss back then, had a presence that filled the room. Tall, sharp suit, sharper tongue. He liked control, and more than that, he liked reminding everyone exactly where they stood. It was a Tuesday afternoon when it happened. A team meeting, the kind where he liked to walk around the table, pausing behind each of us, as if weighing our worth. Someone mentioned salaries in passing, joking about bonuses. Richard's eyes flicked to me. You know, Sarah probably doesn't even make enough to buy lunch for the week. The room erupted in laughter. My face burned hot, my fingers stiff around the pen I was holding. I tried to smile. God, I tried, but my throat tightened and my vision blurred as I forced the tears back. He kept going. Maybe if you work a little harder, Sarah, you'll earn a real paycheck someday. That moment carved itself into me like glass. I remember the sound of chairs creaking as people shifted uncomfortably, though no one spoke up. I remember staring at my notebook, the ink smudging where my shaky hand pressed too hard. That night, I sat on the fire escape outside my tiny apartment, knees pulled to my chest, listening to the city hum below. My rent check was due in 2 days, and I had $48 in my account. I thought about quitting. I thought about giving up. But then I ran my fingers over the bracelet on my wrist, a simple silver band my grandmother had given me before she passed. She used to say, Sarah, never let anyone tell you what you're worth. They don't get to decide that. You do. The metal felt cool against my skin, and in that moment, something hardened inside me. Richard thought my paycheck defined me. He thought my silence meant weakness. But I made a promise that night on the fire escape, the city lights flickering like witnesses around me. I would not stay small. I would not let his words be the final chapter of my story. I didn't know how yet, but I knew this. Someday, I'd walk into a room, and people like Richard Hale would think twice before underestimating me. I didn't leave Hale and Company right away. Quitting without a safety net would have crushed me. Instead, I stayed, silent and watchful, while secretly sketching a different future after hours. By day, I filed reports and endured Richard's condescension. By night, I poured myself into something new, learning everything I could about startups, angel investing, and business strategy. My apartment became a battlefield of open books, glowing laptop screens, and takeout containers stacked on the counter. I survived on coffee, determination, and the faint glow of possibility. The first time I tried to pitch my own idea, a small digital consultancy, I failed miserably. My voice shook. The investors were polite but dismissive. I went home and cried so hard I smudged my mascara into raccoon rings. But the next morning, I wiped my face, tied my hair back, and tried again. It was at a networking event, crowded and loud, that I met Elaine. She was in her 50s, seasoned, with a kind of presence that silences a room without raising her voice. I must have looked lost, clutching my worn-out notebook, because she came over, asked about my goals, and actually listened. For months afterward, Elaine became my quiet mentor. She believed in me when I barely believed in myself. She taught me how to negotiate without apology, how to read contracts without fear, how to price my work without shrinking back. Stop asking for permission, she told me once over coffee, her lipstick leaving a mark on the porcelain cup. You're not lucky to be here, Sarah. You belong here. It wasn't glamorous at first. My first client was a struggling bakery in Brooklyn that needed help with their online presence. I worked late nights designing their digital campaigns, charging less than I should have, but when their sales doubled in 3 months, I knew I was onto something. From there, it snowballed. Small businesses, then mid-sized firms. Each project taught me more than any lecture or textbook ever had. I stumbled plenty, contracts gone wrong, delayed payments, nights when I thought I was foolish to even try. But every win, no matter how small, fueled the fire. And slowly the money came. Not a flood at first, but a steady stream that grew into something undeniable. I paid off my student loans. I moved into a better apartment. I bought clothes that actually fit and didn't fall apart in the wash. All the while, I kept my success quiet. On social media, I posted vague updates, a coffee cup, a city view, nothing that gave away the truth. Even my old colleagues assumed I was still grinding at some mid-level job, barely making ends meet. And that was fine with me, because while they saw nothing, I was building everything. By the time I turned 30, I had a portfolio of clients across the country and enough capital to start investing myself. The girl with the laughable paycheck was gone. In her place stood a woman who knew her worth, not because someone handed it to her, but because she fought, failed, learned, and rose until it was undeniable. And yet, I carried Richard Hale's words with me like a scar. Not to hurt me anymore, but to remind me why I had built all this in the first place. The morning of our meeting, the city was dressed in rain. Droplets streaked the glass of my office windows, blurring the skyline into silver and gray. Inside, everything gleamed, the polished walnut desk, the framed art I'd collected from my travels, the soft leather chairs across from me. A curated reflection of years of grit, sacrifice, and triumph. I glanced at the bracelet on my wrist, the silver one from my grandmother. I rarely wore it to meetings, but today it felt right. A reminder of who I had been and who I had become. At precisely 10 o'clock, the door opened. Richard Hale walked in. For a moment, time folded back on itself. I saw him as I once had, the man whose voice could shrink me to nothing. But then I blinked, and the reality of now settled like armor around me. His hair was thinner, streaked with gray at the temples, his once proud stride slowed. But his eyes, sharp, calculating, hadn't changed. He didn't recognize me at first. Why would he? He wasn't used to looking down at people. He only looked through them. His gaze swept across the office, lingering on the artwork, the view, the quiet wealth stitched into every detail. "Impressive place," he said, adjusting his tie. "Your boss must be doing well." I almost laughed. Instead, I gestured to the chair across from me. "Have a seat." He did, oblivious, and began his pitch. Hale and Company, the firm that once held my entire world, was struggling. Investors were pulling out, debts piling high. He needed fresh capital to survive. He needed someone to believe in him again. I listened, nodding, my face unreadable. My mind wandered back to that day in the conference room, the smirk, the laughter at my expense. My throat tightened for a beat, then loosened. I wasn't that girl anymore. Finally, when he finished, I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the desk. "Richard," I said softly, "do you know who I am?" He blinked, frowning, as if searching for recognition. His lips parted slightly. And then, slowly, realization dawned. "Sarah?" The name escaped him like a confession. "Yes." I let the silence hang heavy. "The same Sarah you once mocked for her paycheck." His face flushed, his jaw tightening. For the first time, Richard Hale looked small. I leaned back, letting the weight of the moment fill the room. You came here today thinking I was just another investor. But the truth is, Richard, I built this company from nothing. I own this office. I own the seat you're sitting in. And now, I paused, savoring the irony. You're the one asking me for money. The silence that followed was exquisite. I could see it in his eyes. Disbelief, shame, the bruising sting of poetic justice. I didn't realize, he stammered. Sarah, Of course you didn't. I cut in, my tone even. Back then you didn't see me at all. Just a girl with a small paycheck. You had no idea what I was capable of. I let the words settle, then smiled. Not cruelly, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had endured, risen, and returned stronger. Outside, the rain softened into a drizzle. Inside, Richard Hale sat in silence, facing the woman he once underestimated. And for the first time, he had nothing to say. Richard shifted in his chair, tugging at his cufflinks like they might save him from drowning. His confidence, the arrogance that once filled entire rooms, was gone. In its place sat a man stripped bare by circumstance. I know I wasn't always, he started, fumbling, kind. But Sarah, this is business. The past is the past. What matters is the future. And if you can invest, you won't regret it. I tilted my head, studying him. For years, I had imagined this moment, the apology that never came, the recognition that I had earned. And yet, sitting across from him now, I didn't crave revenge. What I craved was change. Richard, I said, my voice steady, I'm not interested in humiliating you. I don't need to. Life has already humbled you enough. He flinched just slightly. But if I put my money into your company, it won't come free. There will be conditions. His brows furrowed. Conditions? Yes. I leaned forward, my grandmother's bracelet catching the light. First, every employee at Hale and Company will be paid fairly. No more entry-level staff scraping by while you pocket bonuses. You'll create a structure where talent is rewarded, not mocked. He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand, stopping him. Second, mentorship. For women especially. I know what it's like to be underestimated, to be dismissed. If I invest, you will implement programs that give women and young professionals real opportunities to grow. Not as a favor, as a necessity. He sat back, silent, his jaw tight. And third, I continued, softer now but no less firm, you will change how you lead. The sarcasm, the belittling, the culture of fear, it ends. If I come on board, I expect a company built on respect, not intimidation. For a long moment, Richard stared at me. I could almost see the war inside him, the instinct to argue, to assert dominance, clashing with the reality that he had no choice. Finally, he exhaled, his shoulders slumping. And if I agree? Then you'll get the capital you need, I said plainly. And more than that, you'll get a chance to rebuild. To make Hale and Company into something worth saving. He nodded slowly, almost reluctantly, but I could see it, the flicker of something deeper. Shame, perhaps. Or maybe the first hint of reflection. I leaned back, letting silence stretch between us. My heart wasn't pounding with victory. It was steady, calm. This wasn't about winning over him. It was about honoring the promise I had once made to myself, never to let anyone decide my worth again. You'll have my answer in writing by tomorrow, I said finally. But you should know this, Richard. I don't invest in companies. I invest in people. If you can't change, no amount of money will save you. His eyes met mine then, and for the first time, there was no arrogance. Just a man finally realizing the cost of underestimating someone. Weeks later, the ink on the contracts had dried, and Hale and Company began its slow transformation. The changes weren't instant, but they were visible. I visited their offices one afternoon and watched something I had never seen there before, employees smiling. Meetings that didn't feel like interrogations. Young analysts who spoke up without fear of being torn down. And Richard, well, even he seemed altered. His voice was softer, his sharp edges dulled by humility. I caught him once walking through the bullpen, stopping to thank an assistant by name. The same man who once mocked me for not making enough for lunch. Change doesn't erase the past, but it can shape the future. At night, back in my apartment, I sat by the window with a cup of tea, the city glittering beneath me. I turned the silver bracelet on my wrist, tracing its smooth curve. My grandmother's words whispered through me, "Never let anyone tell you what you're worth. They don't get to decide that. You do." For years, I had carried those words like armor, pushing through exhaustion, rejection, and doubt. And now, sitting here, I realized something. I hadn't just proven Richard wrong. I had proven myself right. It wasn't about revenge. It was about becoming the woman I had once promised myself I would be, strong, steady, capable of building something bigger than fear. The girl who once sat crying on a fire escape with $48 to her name had grown into the woman who could sit across from her former boss and dictate the terms. I smiled, setting the bracelet down gently on the desk beside me. The city hummed, alive with 1,000 untold stories, but mine had come full circle. And if I could leave just one truth behind for anyone listening, it would be this. Your worth is never defined by the paycheck someone laughs at. It's defined by the empire you dare to build after they laugh.